So, hi guys, Tim and Toby here for the next episode, or next instalment, episode 6 of the series How Germany Lost the War. And now, this episode, we're going to be looking at the quite, what's the word, quite looked over, missed out in military history, and that is the small little area between basically the end of Normandy and the start of the Ardennes campaign, or the Battle of the Bulge, which was in the middle, which was Hurtgen Forest. And now Hurtgen Forest was basically a death trap for the Americans. It was covered with, what can you call it, kind of old-fashioned tripwire, S-mines were used, standard telemines. It was a complete just minefield of, and plus, if those mines went off, quite close to a tree, you had then tree splinters, shrapnels going into people. It was just completely, death trap. But every inch of Normandy, countryside, and beyond had to be taken. They wouldn't let any scrap of land be taken back by a couple of Germans. They literally need every land taken. So that's why Hurtgen Forest, even if it was a small area, it still wasn't missed. Because it was basically like if you get a broom and you sweep everything under a carpet. It's not just one side of it and you leave that bit, you do the whole of it. That's what the Allies were doing after Normandy, just pushing the whole of the Germans back into their homeland, or Deutschland, Germany. So, Hurtgen Forest action, or the Battle of Hurtgen Forest, lasted from September to December 1944. The majority of the fighting is more famously accounted in the month of October, but it did run on from September to December 1944. The American infantrymen who were present at the battle there's far more than what I'm going to reel off, but these are the more famous ones. There's the Big Red One, or famously the 1st Infantry Division, US Infantry Division, the 29th Infantry Division, the 28th Infantry Division, there's the 4th Infantry Division, the 8th Infantry Division, the 99th Infantry Division, the 9th Infantry Division, and there's more, loads. If we're looking at figures, there are around about 120,000 US troops fought in that battle, and 33,000 were killed, and 55,000 were wounded. Now, for the Americans, those American units were commanded by the very famous Omaha Bradley. And now, for the Germans, they were commanded by another very famous tactical general called Walter Model. And now, figures in contrast to the Americans, you're looking at, for the German side of it, you're looking at roughly the same amount of Germans to the Americans, roughly about 120,000 Germans, roughly. For casualties, you're looking at, say, 28, roughly 25 to 30,000 Germans killed in the battle. But before I'll let Toby do an insight of that, it was just a kind of a big blob of dust which the Americans had to sweep away, and in the meantime getting sniped at, machine gunned, tripwire, barbed wire, S-mine, the whole lot. It was just a complete death trap, a big forest death trap, which was Hurtgen. So I'll just pass you on to Toby, which will tell you a bit more about kind of what I'm saying. So Toby?
Okay, thank you, Tim. Very good. So, one of the reasons that this battle started was that American troops, for some reason, decided that they needed to take a big German city called Aachen. Now, that battle is very unknown as well, and kind of worthy of a smaller video, I guess, in its own right. Probably won't do one, but okay. Very house-to-house fighting there, using bazookas as anti-infantry weapons there. That's how kind of ridiculous it actually got. So they decided then to go into the Hurtgenwald forest to try and take the river crossings at Duren. However, it didn't, from the very get-go, go at all to plan. So the Germans wanted to keep this area because their Ardennes counterattack kind of grouping area was only a few well, not hundred even, a few tens of kilometres away, and if the Americans got out of the forest, they would be on the open flat ground and would outflank the entire outcoming operation, which is why it was so crucial to the Germans to keep it. So the Americans began grinding forward through the horrible forests, and basically immediately just turned into World War I style trench warfare. They ended up getting completely bogged down, and one of the major issues is all of the so everything was so close that the German radio engineers, the Nachrichten troops, could actually hear into the Americans' communications. And as a result, one company commander said that he was returning via a certain road, and that road was bombed by mortar fire, and several of his men were killed. The second issue was trench foot as the battle wore on, so not dissimilar to the First World War, as they were stuck in the foxholes for a prolonged period of time. And then, further compounding the issue was that armour, one of the Allies' key strengths, could not actually work. So they tried to bring up their tanks and armour through logging tracks, but the Germans actually had laid mines, and occasionally laid them too deep, twice, two above one another. And due to this, sometimes the engineers would then remove the mine, and then vehicles would go forward and then lose a track, and then it would block the entire thing. Until that was moved, then it would just happen again and again and again. The Germans had very effective mortar fire during this battle. Not saying the Germans didn't have issues. Much like Arnhem, they assembled a bunch of very thrown together units. So one unit which got chewed up completely by the Americans was, the German commanders in the area didn't even want to send them forward because they knew basically what was going to happen. And the Luftwaffe actually sent a translator battalion forward. So they were sending, just troops who were never even near the front for translating. They were just sending those people straight into the jaws of the Americans. Another battalion consisted of mostly old men, pretty similar to the Volkssturm, which emerged around about this time. So as the Americans advanced, though, the mortar fire and machine gun fire, artillery, rifle really began to take its toll, but they reached their objective. Then they found the worst thing. Upstream from this river, over the river crossing, it was found that the Germans still had control of a set of dams, which means if they opened the dams, they could flood the entire area and cut the Americans off. This put them in a very precarious position where they didn't want to reinforce them, because the Germans would then have greater chance of destroying more American troops. Then one of the final disasters, really, was the 116th Panzer Division, Windhund, moved forward and counterattacked pretty viciously against the American bridgehead and pushed them back. Most Americans were actually killed in this battle. So, really hellish. So, yeah, I'll go back to Tim.
Right, thanks Toby, thanks for that. And now I'd just like to reiterate what Toby was saying about old men, translators and people who weren't official soldiers fighting for the German army. This is when you get to the stage, and especially a year later, when Germany was just completely just getting so confuddled and so kind of economy driven. So you got belt buckles, you got armament, you got everything, clothing, which were just so basically they had lost so much money, they had to just use whatever they could find. Of course, sending in translators and old men and everything, like that. And especially, in 1945, you would definitely see the Volkssturm, or the civilians coming out to attack. But this is when you can really find that America and Britain and all the other allies were pushing the Germans back right through Normandy, through Hurtgen, through the Ardennes, Belgium, right through. This is when it kind of starts officially. Of course, yeah, Tuesday the 6th of June 1944, Normandy invasion, it starts from then, but this is officially when Germany is really on the run. By December, then into January 1945, they really basically get pushed back completely with anything, and Germany just starts just to kind of just cripple and get slower and slower and die down when, there's nothing there. So, is there anything else, Toby, you want to say just before I round the video up?
Yeah, I guess one last thing. So, a couple of the divisions in this thing, I'm lucky enough to possess the cloth insignia for. There'll be a couple of images of those.
Yeah.
Just, after this video, well, not after, what I mean, at the end. So I have the 4th Infantry Division and the 1st Infantry Division, and possibly even the 29th Infantry Division will be in there as well. One thing I cannot reiterate enough is this battle ultimately was completely pointless, an absolute debacle for the Americans. It really didn't serve any kind of purpose, any kind of anything really. It just killed a lot of soldiers, and this was made, of course, worse by the fact not only were the Germans running on empty, but the Americans actually were now just sending replacements, as they were known, forward into the battle with no experience. They then wouldn't be well liked by the veterans, who wouldn't teach them, so they would then get killed really, really fast, and then the whole cycle just went round and round and round. So, it's an unknown battle, but it should really be paid much, much more attention to, because it's very, very sad. So, yeah, I'll hand you back over to Tim to end the video.
Right, thanks, Toby. Yes, you got a lot of American veterans not really wanting to be friends with recruits, because they know that they're recruits and they don't really know as much as veterans, so they're going to die pretty quickly, which is quite a sad thing to know, but that happened. So, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next episode, which is episode 7. We're talking about kind of the stalemate with the big, massive counter-attack, which is the Battle of the Bulge. So, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and see you in the next episode. Bye.